Welcome back. We're making a board game, and we're making player 2. I am in levelselector.gd. Last time we wrote this lovely function, what button got pressed, and we called it after we changed the scene, and honestly, it's working. I can't explain why. It shouldn't do that. But just to make me feel better, every time we call what button pressed, we're going to call it before we change the scene. That's going to be a little more secure. It's working now, but wouldn't you hate to find the edge case where it doesn't work? Nice. All right. Save that. So let's make it do stuff. Let's go to events, actually, because we're talking between two scenes. It's going to be a little more secure. There's that word again. If we do this in our globally loaded script. So given that we only have two pieces, we'll just have two variables. I'm going to assume that both players are human. So I will default my variable to true. There are our two new variables, var pink human controlled, it's a bool, it's true. Var blue human controlled, it's a bool, it's true. Let's go back to level selector. So if they pick pink computer, obviously we want the pink human control variable. So I typed events dot. Now I can talk to that variable pink human controlled. And it's going to be false because it's computer, right? Now if we come down to blue computer, let's take a swing. Events dot blue human controlled equals false. Just for security, what if we went through and we played a board with the pink computer being false and we won and we come back and the level is selected, but the player decides they want to pick a different color? It'll cost us nothing to go through and also set some of these to true. So if people pick none, then we want pink human controlled and blue human controlled to be true, right? Blue human controlled equals true. We want that. And I'm going to start copy and pasting. Under pink computer, we want blue to be human. Under blue computer, we want pink to be human. And save. Go into piece.gd. Yep. Just give it a little variable var human bool and default it to true. Just for security's sake. Now come into main. Up here in ready, I want main to read what's going on in events and write it to the piece. I'm actually not totally sure that this is 100% necessary because you may just be able to do this whole thing reading from events instead of doing this step. But this feels better to me. It feels better to me that the piece knows this and has it stored on it, so we're going to do it this way. If you want a special challenge, you can do this tutorial the other way. So after the faders fade in, pink piece dot human equals events dot pink human controlled, and whatever that is going to be set on the pink piece. Blue piece dot human dot blue piece controlled, and let's prove it's working. You don't necessarily have to do this step, but I'm going to because I want to prove to you that we've done it. We've written to blue piece. So this one should come up. If pink piece is human, it's false. So this should come up false, true, right? What's good? Do it the other way just to make sure. So this should come up true, false. Look at that. Excellent for our team. We can delete these print statements. Bye. Now that we know it works. If you had more than 2 pieces, I might do this on like an entirely separate handler. Like I would come into our scene that we inherit everything from and make just a new regular node. Then put some of this code on that node. Given that we're only really doing this with 2 pieces, we're not going to be adding too many lines of code. So I feel okay still being in main. Honestly, if you had like 8 or 9 pieces, could you still do it all in ready? Yeah, it'll probably work too. It'll look like trash and be hard to read. That's all. So how do we take a turn? We click, right? Down here in func input, it checks if event is UI click. So if we click and dice.canClick is true, then take your turn. Here's a fun fact about computers. They can't click themselves. I don't care what subscription you have to whatever AI you're about to, no, they just cannot click a mouse. Unless you drop them on the mouse, but that's not going to work for our game. I feel like Godot should be able to just send out its own actions, but it doesn't appear to be able to at this time. Okay. We got to do some tricky nonsense. I'm going to put just some returns here. It's going to fuss. Because we're going to put from print piece on down into its own new little function. Func. Let's call it take a turn. And we're going to have to delete. Everything's going to have to be indented. Or less indented one. There's a way to say that. I don't remember what it is. Now, if event.isActionPressed UI click and dice.canClick is true, call take a turn. So this looks insane, but this is fine for a human player to be able to take the turn because a human player can click. Computers can't click, but they can run functions. So now anytime we need the computer to take a turn, we can find that spot and just call take a turn. Hey, when does the turn start? We can track that to a couple of places. I'm going to put it, right here where we call the camera and stuff. Let me make this a little bit bigger because these lines are huge. Once the camera goes in and out and the turn label starts, that would be a pretty reasonable place for the computer to take its own turn, right? So let's start coding. First of all, right here under turn label dot visible equals true, I'm going to call whose turn is it. I don't know how we got away with not doing this earlier, but what I found through some testing is that the piece doesn't really successfully flip here. So if it's the pink piece's turn, we want the turn label to go. We probably need to await on the camera, otherwise the computer is gonna... And do you know what I found out recently? You can just do that for await. I thought it had to be in parentheses. If you used Godot 3.5, you probably remember yield. Yield had to be in parentheses, so I think that's why I was thinking await had to be in parentheses. Anyway, we're going to await on the camera before we want the computer to take its turn. And then the pink piece, because we're on the pink piece's turn, right? Pink piece.human. Whoop, this is an if statement. If pink piece dot human double equals false. If you're an upooter, we don't want to click the dice. You don't want the player to take the turn for him, right? Set dice to false, and then take a turn. Whoa. This is a surprise tool that will help us later, but I'm going to put a print here. You don't have to do this. Okay, so we need to await on this camera if it's the blue's turn. And we're going to do the exact same thing. I'm just going to copy it and change pink to blue. Yeah, done. So it should work, right? Okay, sorry. Before we run it, I forgot two things. Number one, I am in Func input. We forgot to check and see if the person clicking is a human. I love that show. Okay, so if event did is actually did, if that's all true, if piece.human double equals true. Does is work? Hold on. We're taking a detour. I need to know this. No. Okay, that's fine. This is how we learn. Okay. If event is action just pressed, UI click, and dice click equals true. If the piece is human, then take a turn. What that does is if the person who's playing this, if they just sit there and click on the computer turn, it blocks take a turn. So they can't take the computer's turn. And one other goofy thing that I forgot. I've got roll for first turned off. In the bounce back tutorial, we set this green space to forward. Or I did. So now it needs to be regular. Or I need to update my board with arrows. Let me turn roll for first back on. I'm going to hit play. I'm going to turn the pink to computer. Let's roll and see who goes first. All right, so the blue is human, so I should be able to take a turn. I guess we've got it set to the forward space. That's fine. It's pink's turn. Here comes the camera. But it doesn't go. And it did print computer detected. Told you that would be a surprise tool to help us later. Let's look. Sometimes just to be a tyrant, I even find my own print statements. Aha. So it should call take a turn, right? What does take a turn do? Take a turn, if piece.i1 is false, which it should be, it calls dice.roll. I held down control and clicked that to get here to... Is this dice.gd? Yeah. And I'm looking at func roll, and this is the drama. If action is just press UI click and can click, do all this nonsense. We need this to work in this way just to keep the user from just a clicking and a rolling, right? But we also need it to be able to talk to pieces controlled by the computer. First, it's going to have to know who's a computer and who is a sweaty human. So there's a couple of ways to do this. The most secure way to do this is with an export variable. On export var, I'm going to call it main. It is a node 2D. Did you see it? Over here in the inspector, we can now assign it. The thing about this method is if we were doing this on different scenes, and in our case, different boards, the name has to match every single time. We've got main 1, we've got main 2, there should be a space there, and we've got main 3. If we did, don't do this, we did main and it goes looking for main 1, well, main equals whatever, and it goes looking for whatever and it can't find it, that's a crash. So we're going to do it through an export. Node 2D. Nailed it. That does mean that we have to click through and assign on every board the root. Okay. Okay, we can do that. Click on dice, assign root, click on main, hello, click on dice, assign root, nailed it. I need to see it save you, nailed it. I'm gonna come over here into the Finder. Yeah, I've done all my boards because I only have 3. And I named them all main. So we name the variable main. So if we want to talk to main, we just type main. And then whatever variable. Right? Okay. So if the current piece on main is true, if main dot piece dot human double equals true, do all this, change nothing, literally perfect. Otherwise, if main dot piece dot human false, don't check for the input. Do everything else. And I guess if you wanted some like fancy computer animation, this would be the place to put it. All right, so let's see what we've wrought. Press play. Pink is going to be a computer. Watch this. So one thing that we haven't accounted for is that if pink goes first or computer goes first, it does crash. We'll fix that in a second. Let's see if we can get it to where a human will go first. There we go. All right, blue's gonna go. Now let's see what we got. Yeah, pink just goes. I didn't touch a thing. You can hear that mouse, right? Okay, we're almost out of the woods. There's 2 things, and the first thing is we do need to address that crash at the beginning. So, order of events in this game. Roll for first pops up. Let's see who goes first. Beep, 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 beep. And then it does what? Oh, it sends a signal. So let's go. I'm sure main receives that signal. This is how we solve problems. We trace through the order of events. Okay, so it connects to this and it runs on send piece. And that is where, sir? Aha, okay, func on send piece. If it's a pink piece turn, I'll sit -ba. Whose turn is it? Well, okay, if piece dot human double equals false, take a turn. Let's see. It works. It does go a little fast. This is personal preference, but we do have a timer. Let's just cheat. Let's just use the timer we have. What do you think? It's set to 1.5 seconds. It is set to 1.5 seconds. Good for us. Hello. So timer.start, await timer timeout, and then take your turn. I'm going to show you something. And then we're going to test it. I'm going to set roll to 6. That'll land us on the question block. Pink is CPU. Let's go see who goes first. We want pink to, yep. And it waits, and then it takes a turn. If you want that longer or shorter, then just set the timer for longer or shorter, or make another timer. Now pink should go to the question box. I am choosing to make the human still answer all the questions. And then blue should go, and then I should be able to go for blue, right? Yep. I cannot think of a fair way to have the CPU answer the questions. Would they get them all right? Would they get some of them wrong? I have no idea. So I'm choosing obsessively, like, oh. Huh. Okay, that's something to look at. What is going on? I almost want to leave this just because this is so cool. Okay, quit. In my mind, if you're playing this game, you either like being asked questions like it's a Trivial Pursuit kind of thing, or you need to answer questions like you're a student doing this for some kind of practice. But, like, if you want the computer to answer some questions, it's the same process that I do every video. I go, where does this start? And it probably starts somewhere in main in the block where we land on the question box. Yep, which way dot question. You probably have to go to questionboxes.gd. Input, full with it here. Maybe it would need a reference to main so it would know. I mean, if you figure it out, let me know. I'll link to your video. Anyway, that is all I have for you today. You have an excellent one, and I will see you next time. Hey, real quick before you scoot, I am on buymeacoffee.com. It's kind of like Ko-Fi and Patreon together. If you found this video helpful or useful, I would appreciate you coming over here and checking this out. If you are willing or able, you can donate on this page.